afternoon once again. We are starting the business session 1, preparedness for post-COVID revival and global play, Indian minerals and mining sectors. We have very eminent speakers, and the moderator would be Mr. Rana Shom, who is the co-chairman of Minerals and Mining Committee, Bengal Chamber of Commerce, and former CMD NMDC. We have Mr. Sumit Dev, Chairman and MD NMDC Limited, and we have Mr. Bishwadeep Gupta, President Corporate Affairs, JSW Steel Limited, and former President Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I would request Mr. Rana Shom to kindly take it forward, sir. Chairman and
I welcome Mr. Gupta, Mr. Dev, and all the participants in the first business session of this program. There is an echo or no? There is an echo. I think there is echo. We are starting the first business session, as I said. It is relating to the preparedness of the steel and mining sector in post-COVID situation. You all know that this sector, steel and mining, it has largely insulated itself from the negative impact of COVID. You might have heard in the first session, in the inaugural session, Mr. Partha Bhattacharya was telling, and Secretary Steel was also mentioning that Coal India, or the coal production in the country, has been largely unaffected by COVID. Same situation has come for iron ore, same situation has come for steel production. But then, challenges are many. I believe we will be discussing here not only about the revival of the sector, I mean, not revival exactly, not only about the ways and means to take the sector forward, but also about how this sector can contribute in reviving the entire economy, because this is a core sector. Simultaneously, we will have to possibly focus on three very important areas. You all know that last month, a few days back on 19th of November, Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan, our Honorable Minister, has mentioned that there has been a mismatch between the availability of iron ore and the demand of iron ore by the steel sector in India. He has shown his anxiety, his concern about this mismatch, and told the industry to act on it. This is one aspect which possibly we shall be looking into. The second aspect is that, again, a challenge for the Indian iron ore sector, that for steel, the government of India have taken a very ambitious scheme as per the government's documents. By the year 2030-31, the plan is to produce 300 million tons of steel with an export component of about 50 plus million. This is a huge challenge for the iron ore industry, manganese industry, coal industry, how the steel industry could be fed and to achieve this target. The third aspect is that India has been, in terms of quantity, a net exporter of coal. As you all know, last year, India had exported 8.24 million tons of 24 million tons of steel and had imported 6.69 million tons of steel. But then what we imported was special steel, and therefore our net outflow of foreign exchange had been to the tune of 10,000 crore. This is a matter of concern, especially when we are talking of Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant India. We have Mr. Sumit Dev, Mr. Bishwadeep Gupta. Both are extremely eminent in their respective fields. I'm sure that during their deliberations, among others, they will also be addressing this issue and come out with their ideas, their proposed solutions to how we can handle it. Over to Mr. Sumit Dev.
Thank you, Mr. Shom. Mr. Gupta, and good afternoon to all the participants in this session. I would like to deliberate on the preparedness, some of my thoughts for this post-COVID revival plan and the global play. I am not really well aware of this topic for today, but then some of my thoughts. Now, the prolonged standstill brought onto the nation due to this COVID outbreak of coronavirus has pushed the entire Indian economy on the backseat. The Indian mining and mineral sector has specifically been impacted due to lower volumes of mineral production. Government revenues have also been affected. Collection against statutory dues and taxes have dropped due to low volumes of mineral production. The economy, of course, obviously now it appears that the economy, what we have been reading is the economy will contract to say around 2% from the original, when the COVID impact had started. It was understood it would be around 10%, but now we understand that the economy is reviving. There are signs of the revival. And in fact, the domestic steel industry is doing very well. There appears to be a shortage of ore in the country, specifically iron ore. If you look at the international scenario, we probably are entering into what they call as a super cycle in the iron ore seaborne commodity trade. We are looking at huge spikes in volatility in prices, probably almost touching $140 in the spot market. Appears to be the Chinese stimulus, which is affecting the iron ore industry. Prices are going up every day. China is almost producing 1 billion tons of steel, and commensurately, their requirement of iron ore is has gone up hugely. However, if you look at the effect of the pandemic, it has thrown up opportunities, and there are now things. We could also be looking at resolving our outstanding problems, and also eradicate the inefficiencies in the entire value chain of the mining and metallurgy. The biggest problems of the effect of the pandemic on the mining and mineral sector, it has been the unavailability of the raw material. Resolution of this problem needs some futuristic steps. One such step could be transforming the model of economy and enabling circularity. Now, of course, coming from the mining sector, this could be a little off the track. Firms with linear operational models of consuming, manufacturing, and dispensing resources. The present model of economy either upon excavation or imports. Disruptive forces such as COVID can easily hamper the entire sector due to the temporary closure of mines and international trade in the present model. Circularity, on the other hand, is a departure from this model by creating a closed loop cycle in the value chain by recovering and recycling scrap and using renewables. Commodities like aluminum, steel, and copper are almost completely recyclable and allows for replacing their primary production by scrap-based production. Moreover, recycling requires much lesser energy compared to primary metal production, facilitating the sector to move towards renewable sources of energy. Surely, mining and similar extractive activities can never be completely circular, and neither is the transformation completely possible in such short span. Still, some elements of circularity could be adopted to a limited extent, while helping us find new sources of value to rejuvenate the sector. Another major challenge thrown upon the industry is the challenge to maintain efficiencies while facing problems of restrictive mobility. Now, logistics has been a very big issue in this COVID times also. The industry was unaware of such challenges, but could tackle it by a tech-led transformation of the industry. Although mining and mineral industry had already taken up the need to drive this transformation, penetrating all aspects of business. Now, this is something which has been a very cause of concern, and we are in NMDC also, we are driving this digital transformation. Technology offers ability for remote operations of physical assets, which could be immensely helpful to prevent discontinuity of operations at the time of pandemic. Furthermore, it enables us to collaborate with long-distance resources and cut down the time taken to support functions like administration, procurement, and finance. The industry also needs technological changes in its operation. Retreating from conventional evacuation streams is one such change which could immediately be implemented. This could be eradicated through construction of slurry pipelines and conveyors for long distance haulage. Miners have long been dependent upon conventional evacuation methods, especially road and rail. I mean, this is something which has been affecting the industry, iron ore industry, for quite some time. This obligated several mines and processing plants to shut down operations or operate at drastically reduced capacity due to this pandemic situation. In the first few months of lockdown, coupled with reduced demand, having an infrastructure-based evacuation could help them supply commodities to manufacturing plants at a much higher rate, generating quicker returns for the firms after resumption, enabling quicker revival of the sector. The companies could also maintain regular communication with their customers. I mean, this is also something which we need to understand and improve upon, to understand and be updated upon the evolving needs and accordingly plan and implement technological changes to optimally cater to their requirements. The government would have a major role in this revival, as it could accelerate the process of revival by many folds mainly through some key structural reforms. Reforms which redefine and fast-track procedures for approval and licenses is the need of the hour, which could minimize idle time of mines and plant. Although the government has proposed to take steps in this direction, such as resolution of long-standing litigation issues, time taken to implement these reforms could be a critical factor. Temporary reduction of financial obligations on industries and rationalization of taxes should also be considered to make projects viable. All this could contribute to increased production. Apart from this, for continuity of operation, demand in the sector needs to be resurrected back for which government can provide incentives to consumers for products which depend upon the minerals for production. Lastly, I'd like to end on the note that COVID-19 undoubtedly has been one of the biggest threats that the industry has ever faced. It requires us to be stronger than we have ever been. All you need is to collaborate and act upon a coherent plan devised for the entire sector to combat the present challenges, simultaneously while inching towards our long-term goals. This could not only help us revive the sector, but change its face post-COVID. Thank you so much, Mr. Dev.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dev. Thank you very much. You have covered very important areas: the revival of the Indian economy, the production challenges, the logistics challenges, and so on. We think that after we hear Mr. Gupta, we will be handling the questions and discuss amongst ourselves the basic issues which have been raised by you. Mr. Gupta, will you please come forward with your deliberation?
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Dev, for your nice little enlightenment. I mean, I am finding it really nice to hear you and your problems that you've enumerated. Well, when I was the president of Bengal Chamber, and Mr. Som knows about this, we've been discussing a lot about iron ore policies and structures and politics around iron ore for a long time. Pandemic or no pandemic, the issue still remains, long time. For example, the first one that comes to my mind is that iron ore and coal, the two major ingredients for steel, are treated in a different way as far as the government is concerned. For example, iron ore is a congruent subject where the state and center have equal say in the policies, whereas coal is a completely central subject. So these have led to a lot of issues. At least I can talk personally in our investment proposals, etc. And we had tried to take off some of the anomalies surrounding these sort of thought process. Coal is under Ministry of Coal. Iron ore, I think, is under Ministry of Steel. That's how it's been structured. Now, coming back to, sir, your subject of today's discussion, I think we say minerals, but I think we are talking mostly about iron ore, because I know both of you are experts in your lines, and I know both Mr. Som and Mr. Deb, you have really taken iron ore to a different level in India, the way you have worked on iron ore. So I would presume next session being on coal, I think we would be focusing a little bit more on iron ore. And I think it's very important for a steel plant maker, because the entire steel production has to be based on iron ore. It cannot be anything else. I mean, yes, recycles, we have heard about recycles, about the electric arc furnaces where scrap is being used. but there are a lot of challenges there. So still, the blast furnace route still remains the most economic and attractive way of working. Yes, there are issues on pollution and environment, which I think people are going to tackle separately, are being tackled. So coming back to the points that the chairman sir had mentioned, unfortunately, although the coal sector, there was no loss in production during the COVID times, the steel sector generally worldwide suffered dramatically. If I were just to see the Indian steel industry, for example, April, the production capacity utilization went down to 27% in April. Then it started ramping up because then the lockdown were eased. Lockdown 1 was eased, unlockdown started. People started moving back, logistics were opened up, trucks movements were started. August, it went up to 78%. And as we speak today, we are at a level of about 90% of capacity utilization compared to similar times last year. So the pandemic had its effect on us, primarily because we not only had to be very safe, as you all know, steel plant needs a lot of people interaction with people have to be there in the plants. And therefore, we had to be very careful with people, movements and other protocols that were maintained. And we lost a lot of people who went off to their respective states, who left. We had serious issues. So the migration of people from our plants to different places took place. So we were affected badly in terms of management of the protocols as well as in the number of people who were available. So I think this must have been the case everywhere else. We managed, all of us managed, the whole world steel managed with some inventories that were kept. But ultimately, by April, say if I take end of February, the whole March, middle, it started, the problems. By April, it was in a very bad shape. So it's going up. Now the whole thing is now changing. And if I were to talk of iron ore from the perspective of a steel company today, the thing that Mr. Dev mentioned, Mr. Chairman Sir, you also mentioned, is the sudden surge of iron ore prices post-COVID. This is something that's really, really unbelievable, the way things have happened. I mean, today, 62% Fe fine is selling on the spot about $140, $145 a ton. 65% is selling at $160, $165 a ton. I mean, something like that we never expected. So post-COVID, the trauma continues, and we do not know where it will end. And I have some thoughts on why this surge in prices happened, something that is not always within our hands. I think the biggest reason for this iron ore price surge has been the political fallout of Australia and China. The issues that they're having, China is unable to access Australian iron ore anymore now, as we speak. So there's a massive demand of China. And as Mr. Dev was mentioning, they are close to 1 billion tons of steel now manufacturing. So they have suddenly ramped up. And they are in the world market, will buy anything that is available, anything that's available at any price, that sort of thing. For example, when they really started their steel plants, their rolling mills, they didn't have enough steel in inventories. So they imported any amount of hot rolled coils from any steel plants in the world. So India, as you know, sir, exported most of its steel in August, September to China. That was the major export destination for India. And that's how the plants were running. India was not buying, Indian companies were not buying the Indian steel, but it was all being exported mainly to China and also a little bit to Vietnam. But what I'm trying to say is that there has been an abnormal reduction in the availability of iron ore in the world. One was because of the political fallout of Australia, China. Second was, as you all know, sir, the issues that were going on in Brazil with the Vale and other places, where Brazil had to cut back their iron ore production. Now, I believe a lot of it is now coming back. Vale is opening up some of its old closed mines and all that. I was reading it yesterday. So the major thing is there was an abnormal surge of demand from the steel plants for iron ore because everybody wanted to make more steel. Iron ore was not available in the market, and there was a world global shortage of iron ore. Now, this is a typical supply-demand issue where the prices really went northwards. The other thing that Mr. They mentioned, and also, sir, you mentioned, was the Honorable Steel Minister recently reviewed and showed his concern about the logistics and evacuation system of the iron ore from different places. And in fact, he even mentioned that it might be considered that exports would be of iron ore would be stopped for some time. This is what I read in the newspaper. I don't know, you will know better. But Mr. Pradhan was said to have mentioned this, that he's even considering temporary banning of iron ore exports. Because, as you know, sir, today in Odisha and the entire road network has been choked. Today is very difficult to get a truck out of your pit head because all the trucks have been taken by the merchant miners to the port. It's all fixed because there's a huge demand of iron ore from all over the world now. So I think, and this is very normal, sir. This is how water from top will always flow down to the bottom. If there is a demand and big amount of money available in the markets abroad, why will I not be able to sell it there in a free economy? I think this is something that is there, but then we have to also see and balance the needs of the steel plants in India. The other thing, coming to the other part of it, that's a global thing we said. There are also a large number of mines which have now been auctioned off, which have now been given out. There were a lot of Supreme Court orders closing down many mines. Sir, you are aware of it because you are also affected. And I think these mines are now coming back or are in the position to come back and start operations very soon. I was also made aware that your Donamalli mines in Karnataka will come up very fast, will open up again. And I would believe that the local mines which have been closed down, once the necessary steps of redressal of environment issues are done, I think these mines should come back fast. And also those new mines which have been, or even the old mines which have been transferred to new lessees, I would presume they would open up very fast. And if that happens, then there would be immediately some sort of relief from the domestic mine suppliers. I think, this for us is, from a steel plant point of view, I think these are some of the issues that I thought I would keep bringing in mind. I did not want to bring in the typical my steel plant points because this is a public forum and it would be better that we stick to a more generalistic situation. But the post-COVID steel is, summarizing the whole thing, the steel is recovering very fast. And if the steel is recovering very fast, then it has to be matched by adequate supplies of iron ore. And as we all know, a blast furnace needs iron ore, iron in any form, pellets, sinter, or lumps. So these has to be supported by that, whether it's from imports or from domestic source, it has to be supported. Then post-COVID, the logistics has to be improved. I mean, because what is happening also, sir, you must realize that the big units that were consuming steel, like the automobile industries, are not ramped up to the full extent. Today, the automobile sector is not in the full time as pre-COVID times. It is not happening. Some of the two-wheelers are doing well, but the four-wheelers are not doing so well. And so also, therefore, there is a big demand issue for those things. So what is happening is there's a lot of demand for long products, especially in the construction sectors in the rural India. So therefore, not every steel plant has a capability of switching over from a slab caster to a bloom caster overnight. It takes time. So this is something that needs to be addressed, to be seen. The other areas where people are doing well are the things like air conditions, refrigerators, washing machines, those items, and also roofing sheets are also doing well. So what we call the secondary steel, but that's not much in terms of tonnages. As far as we are concerned, the big steel plants who make a lot of tonnages of flat products, our demand is still not in the pre-COVID times. It will still take some time to come back. So I think overall, sir, I am, and I'm sure my company has also made this statement many times. We are actually hopeful of going to better than COVID times in the very near future. So this was some of my points, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Thank you for your insight. In fact, as you were telling, a number of questions were coming to my mind. But before I talk about it, I think we have already received a question from one of the participants. The question is for Mr. Sumit Dev. Mr. Dev, are you online? I think, or no, Mr. Dev is not available, it looks. But then, whatever question, in that case, I will wait for Mr. Dev to come back to the screen. But whatever questions were coming to my mind had been that one of the reasons for shortfall of iron ore production and its ability to supply the required quantity to steel mills in India had been that after the auction of iron ore mines in Odisha, there has been a drastic fall in production of iron ore from Odisha. And it has been compounded by the fact that some of the merchant mines have been transferred for captive use. Therefore, the net availability of iron ore in the market, which can be accessed by other steel plants, it has come down substantially. When we could expect that the things will be normalized, Mr. Gupta?
Sir, I'm trying to call.
Mr. Dev is already back. Mr. Dev is already back.
Yes. We can ask them.
Yes. Now, Mr. Gupta,
yes,
my
Mr.
question was about you.
I can, sorry, I just could hear your question. You were saying you were talking about normalization of iron ore supplies.
Could you hear me, Mr. Gupta? Mr. Gupta, could you hear my question?
The last part of it, sir, I could not hear. If you can repeat, sir, please.
I am repeating for information of Mr. Dev also. I said that one of the reasons for shortage of iron ore in Indian domestic market has been that after auction of mines in Odisha, the auction mines have not come back to its normal production as yet. Secondly, some of the merchant mines have been shifted from merchant mining to captive mining after this auction, and therefore the output from those mines are no longer available to other steel plants in India. When I was analyzing, I find that these two factors are also contributing to shortfall of iron ore in the Indian market.
I agree, sir. I agree 100% on this, sir. What you said, your analysis is correct. And this transition from the old mine owners to the new lessees, then the transfer of merchant mines to some other systems, this is taking a lot of time to open up. In fact, I know from our experience, it's been years that we are trying to open up some of our mines in Karnataka, and we have been still struggling. So it's you know this, sir, very well. There are a lot of issues, a lot of pollution, legal, other hassles that go in with it. So I think I agree with you 100%. If this can be streamlined and smoothened, we can get much more tonnages of iron ore in the system for everybody.
Thank you. Now, for Mr. Dev, there is from one of the participants, there has been a question for you. I read out the question. If the conventional evacuation method is one of the critical factors responsible for steady growth of mining sector, which changes are suggested and who should pioneer the intended changes? Now, this is the question. You already touched it upon. You talked about slurry pipeline, you talked about conveyor belts and all that. But possibly you have to talk more about the volume which will be handled by this process. And secondly, you will have to also tell about who will be responsible for spending on this infrastructure. Yes, Mr.
See, I would like to answer, Mr. Shom. I would like to answer this query. It is like this that today, if you look at logistics, I mean, the logistics cost in India. I mean, I will not go back to statistics, but if we could look at the logistics cost by rail, it is a major reason for the high landed cost of ore at the customer's location. So this is, I mean, if you look at our pithead costs and the cost landed at our customer's location, it is almost the the logistics cost is almost 50%. I mean, the logistics and the duties. So this is a very important thing which has been, which needs to be. I mean, there needs to be a resolution to this whole issue, because if you need to reduce the cost, you need to bring in material through either through pipeline or through conveyors. Now these are the methods by which, obviously, slurry pipeline, you will need to you can only bring in material for pellet plants. I mean, because this is going to be a pellet feed. It cannot go straight away into a conventional blast furnace. Though there are technologies, people say that concentrate could be used probably in a sinter for making a sinter. This needs to be actually looked at. But otherwise, it has to be a pellet and then pellet into the blast furnace. So now, for example, NMDC, we are putting up pipelines. Obviously, you are aware that we are putting up a pipeline from Kirandul to Nagarnar. That was a phase 1, and then we are moving another in the phase 2 from Nagarnar to from Jagdalpur to Vizag. So this is something which we are planning to put up, and the cost in a pipeline is 1/10 of the cost of movement by rail. So obviously there are huge advantages, and pellets also give better efficiencies in the blast furnace in the system. Though not many blast furnaces are using pellets in the requisite quantities. Nowadays, of course, obviously you see people like JSW and Tata Steel, they are using pellets now. The usage of pellets has gone up hugely. So, and we have seen JSW in Karnataka use the conveyor system for reducing their cost. So they have the network of conveyors. So these are the ways we have to look at to reduce costs to bring down the landed price at the customer's end. I think so.
No, but then who is going to make the cost?
These have to be actually. No, these have to be made by the miners themselves. I mean, probably if you look at us, we are doing it on our own. I mean, if a port connectivity, probably miners will need to do it. In some cases, people like JSW have done it, but then they have done it for their own consumption, from their own mines also in Karnataka, movement from their own mines. So I think we need to invest. The miners need to invest. I mean, if they are able to generate those funds, so I mean, the capex investment has to be done by the miners.
The steel mill should invest in pellet plant, and the miners should invest in pipelines.
Absolutely. I mean, you're bang on. You're bang on. Yes.
Can I make a submission? And
yes.
I would like to agree with what Mr. Dev was saying 100% on this, on his analysis. So our experience on this is in Sandur, we have put up our network of pipe conveyors. I say pipe conveyors because there's another issue to conveying iron ore through the system, is that you have to take care of, it takes care of pollution quite a lot. There is, I mean, if you are in Karnataka, if you're in Hospet, Bellary region, you'll see everything is red. I mean, because of the trucks that carry the iron ore, it's all in a very bad shape. But this particular system of 18-20 kilometers that we have put up has been good. We also have slurry pipelines in Odisha. But one major thing that happens is, in fact, two things. One is we find a huge amount of issues with getting approvals for cross-state movement approvals, especially from the forests and environment. This takes more than years to come. It's so frustrating sometimes to put up a pipeline inside between states, and most of the states have a lot of forest covers, because iron ore and forests are more or less, I think they go together. And putting up a thing like this takes a lot of issues. I think SL Mining at one point of time had some problems of just crossing a road in a pipe conveyor. I remember in Odisha, because of the approvals were not there. So this is one thing. Then secondly, on slurry pipelines, sir, Mr. Dev, you were also mentioning one big issue is water. Slurry pipeline has an issue of water. Whose water it is, and do you need to bring that water back? Now, a lot of technology are available of putting up a smaller diameter pipeline to pump the water back after the dewatering is done in the receiving location. It has to be brought back to the. So there are a lot of issues on this. Water is a very, very difficult subject to get. I mean, you don't get water available for making slurry and then pumping it all through the process. Technology is there, sir. Absolutely there. There's no problem putting technology of 100, 200 kilometers of pipeline through difficult terrains. But we need to have the approval system in place faster, and we need to solve a little bit of the water problem, because these are two major things that we can. As far as the pipe conveyors are concerned, there are a lot of people who do it nowadays, and it is easily available. Again, you need to take the right of way from the different stakeholders to bring it through that system. And as you know, I mean, you must have seen the one that we have in Sandur, and not far from your mines also. It all we collect in one place and then bring it into our plant in Vijayanagar. So it's a very workable solution, but it needs to be. A lot of things have to be improved done on that.
On this, I would like to just add one small thing, Mr. Stone, with your permission. Mr. Gupta has rightly flagged several issues. One of them is the pollution issue. Obviously, a pellet is a much more better or environmental friendly method of production rather than using sinter. Sinter is obviously a very polluting. So that is one. The other second is the government. The present government is very much, aware of this issue of this right of use, right of way, and there is a national infrastructure pipeline which the Honorable Prime Minister is. This is something which the government has flagged. And there is a review which goes on the national infrastructure pipeline, which actually monitors the pipelines, whatever the pipelines are being laid, whether it is JSW or it is Arcelor or with NMDC. So regular meetings are being held, and whenever issues are coming up, they are getting resolved. So this is something which the government has taken a very. It's there in one of the priority sectors. So I think things should improve, and there could be, we could see several of these projects coming up. On the water front, for example, the pipeline we are laying, the water is again getting recycled back. We are pumping back the water. So there are two pipelines basically. So one will carry the slurry, and the pipeline and the water will be pumped back. But then this is an issue which rightly flagged by you, that water is whose resource is something. This resource, the water will be a little difficult for a lot of people to actually get approvals.
Mr. Dev, one more issue which has been bothering most of the participants has been why India, when there is a ready demand in the domestic market, why India should export iron ore at all? Now, I read out a question. Whether the government of India has taken a decision to completely ban export of iron ore and pellets for the survival of indigenous iron and steel industry and arrest the escalation of price of iron ore. If not, BCC and I should write to Government of India if it is not done. But then, this is an issue which is a very hot topic. In fact, our Honorable Minister has also, only a few days back, has mentioned that government is seriously considering whether to ban the export and all that. The other point of view has been that when the export market is hot, the demands are high, the prices are attractive, why shouldn't we take advantage of the high market elsewhere, especially China, and make some money? Why should we not? Should the nation not earn adequate foreign exchange by taking advantage of this situation. That is another way of looking at it. Now, India, as you know, has imposed 30% export duty on export of any iron ore of Fe58 and above. Despite that, the export is going on, whereas some exports, a bulk of export is also up to 55, 58 Fe or less than 58 Fe. Under this situation, what would be your reaction to this demand of banning of iron ore export from India?
Now, if you look at our exports, which is taking place from this country, most of it is in this grade of 57, 58 grade, which take place. Most of it. So, I mean, there could be some export going on in the above that also, but then most of it is in the 57, 58 range, which the domestic industry is not utilizing. They don't use, the domestic industry doesn't utilize 57, 58 grade. So that's okay. I mean, once if it is not being utilized, if it is lying around, then probably there is no problem in exporting it and getting some precious foreign exchange. So that part is okay. So I do not know. I mean, if it's a decision which the government will need to take with regard to iron ore export. But then pellet export is something is supposed to be a value-added product. Of course, the value addition isn't too much. In case of see, what is basically happening is, in case of you are not there's no duty on any above 58, there is a 30% duty. But when it gets into a pellet form, then anything above 60 is also getting exported. The value addition is hardly anything. The value addition in case of pellet is just $10. Maximum is $10, $15. But then there is no duty on pellets. So this the government will need to have a look at.
Yeah, Mr. Gupta, you were also talking about exports. So somebody has decided that BCCI should take it up. What is the panelist's opinion?
I think, sir, whichever way you look at it, it is right. If you look at it from the angle of FEMI, it's right. If you look at it from the angle of our industry, our point of view is also right. So it's very difficult to say that in a meeting like this, what is the right solution. I personally believe, this is my personal belief, is that there has to be some sort of a regulation in terms of exports. Exports, as Mr. Dev said, I also agree, why not take advantage of you said, why not take advantage of a good market, or at least for the fines which are lower in Fe grade, try and see if we can maximize some of our forex sales. But then there are many companies who are putting in technologies to use these low-grade Fes. Like we have a full, as you know, you have the full beneficiation plans, and then we work out, improve the Fe in our plans, and then we take it forward. So, and so therefore, I would personally believe that there has to be a balance in terms of exports and availability, that is for the other companies, for the steel plants. So how you do it, there are a lot of other places. But then, sir, you had mentioned a point that within 2030, you are trying to plan 300 million tons of steel industry. You remember many years back.
That's the government of India.
You remember that this 300 million tons was a target which should have been achieved many years back. In fact, I was a part of that steel committee in Delhi, where we had mentioned 300 million tons many years back it will be achieved. It could not be achieved. Now, one of the major reasons it could not be achieved is a lot of things were not in place. Now, if you have to achieve 300 million tons of steel, which I think is a very important indicator for a nation's progress in terms of the $1 trillion economy and all that. So what is needed is to have a proper balance between availability of raw materials, not just iron ore, everything, and then regulations, all the systems in place so that you can manage both the sides. It's a decision that is taken in a different level, sir. But Bengal Chamber of Commerce, I agree, they have already done some work on this. I'm sure from your archives, Arnav will be able to help you. We have already made a lot of representations on how to balance this thing out. And if you would like to make a small committee, I would be very happy to help you in this task.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm sure Bengal Chamber people who are there, they will take note of this. We have got another question. I read out the question once again. Why the government of India can't take initiative to set up integrated modern method for evacuation process, given the huge bottlenecks in getting clearances from so many sources? Now here, it covers what Mr. Vishwadip Gupta has just now mentioned, that laying a pipeline is not a very easy thing. It requires so many approvals. But Mr. Dev has clarified that there is already an authority which regulates and assists the laying of pipeline. I do not know how effective this body is. Can you throw some light, Mr. Dev, how effective the body of National Pipeline Authority is?
The government is helping people in private sector, the government sector, people who are interested in. There is this national infrastructure pipeline, which has got several people, the environment ministries, the steel ministry. So they are the railway ministry. So everybody is on board, and whenever there are issues coming up, the government is sorting out those issues or helping or flagging those issues, and they are getting sorted out. So hopefully we should be seeing better cooperation to that extent.
So Government of India is already active on it.
Yes, very much.
Government of India is already active on this.
Yes.
And
yes.
another thing which has not been mentioned here, I believe the government is seriously considering investing some money in having a double line from Kirindu to Vizag. I think up to Jagdalpur, the investment has been done by NMDC, but beyond Jagdalpur, to collect the railway line up to Vizag, has there been any decision taken by the government?
So what happened is the up to Jagdalpur, we are funding that the entire project.
Yeah.
So now the project is almost 85%. I think it started during your period probably. So the project is already 85% complete, and the balance from Jagdalpur to Vizag, that the railways are doing that themselves. So, and that is also at quite an advanced stage. I mean, so this whole project, except for some patches in mostly in these LWE affected areas, except for that, most of the KK line and things should be fully operational by 2023 probably.
So the gentleman who has asked this question, our reply to this is that the government is already very active on this area, whether it is pipeline or laying of railway line and all that. And once these infrastructural facilities are commissioned, immediately the production and availability of iron ore to Indian steel industry will be much more than what it is today. In fact, my assessment is that your bilateral mines can possibly produce 10 to 15 million ton more per year if there is a second line from Baladala to Bhaja. Anyway. Coming back to the export, what we are talking about it. Now, this export, what is the total quantity of export? Can you throw any light? India has made, so far as NMDC is concerned, we are exporting the good quality of iron ore. But then, other export of low-grade iron ore, what could be the quantity? Is it readily available?
No, I really do not have it offhand. But
if I'm not wrong, it is about 34 million ton last year. And if it is 34 million ton, then despite the fact that some of the steel plants have created facilities for beneficiation of low-grade iron ore, 34 million ton will be too much to beneficiate and use in Indian market. And therefore, there is possibly an option to export and earn foreign exchange. If there is any other question, there is no other question. I just would like to provide 1 minute time to each of you to make some final remarks. Mr. Dev first.
Thank you, Mr. Som. It was lovely participating in the discussion. Obviously, there have been a lot of takeaways. The participants also must have benefited. It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Gupta.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to speak to you and meet you all. Obviously, iron ore is not my specialty, as you realize. So, whatever little I knew and from my experience of running a steel plant, I've been able to come back to you and give you our perspective. I think what is very important is, and I think this solution or an idea of solution came in your closing remarks about the 34 million tons. I think the solution would come if we can make a balance about actual requirement and what is excess available which can be exported. So some sort of a balance is required to, instead of indiscriminate exports, can we not do some thought process and planning out so that we can export only the extra quantity that is available to be exported? Now, this is something that's very important. Someone has to sit down and work this out at a planning commission or some level like that. And that is what is needed. I think the other thing, my last point is, we have a lot of good meaning committees and things that happen. A lot of people are there, a lot of meetings happen. On the ground, there are a lot of things needed to be desired. There's a lot of desired, which doesn't happen. So I think it's very important for people from the actual users also to get involved in these decisions making. Give you a simple example, sir. When you try and lay a pipeline, they tell you, please take it through next to the national highway because the linear approvals are there already. But when you try and approach NHAI, it takes long time to get an approval, sir. Number one. Number two is, moment you take one, say iron ore between one state to another, immediately they will say, no, put the iron ore in our state, make the steel plant here, value addition here. Why are you taking it away? This has happened to us many times, and we know the situations, what happens. So there has to be a central committee which takes care of practical issues. Otherwise, we'll have committees after committees and trying to sort out these issues. And this is not an issue which came up yesterday. It has come up many years back. I'm talking of 10 years back at least, that we have been discussing these points. So I would also, have a very good thought process that you may mention that let Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industries take this leadership and make some position paper for the government to consider under your chairmanship and also Mr. Bhattacharya's chairmanship.
Just one small issue I missed. I take only 1 minute time more. That is, India has a net outflow of foreign exchange due to import of about 6.69 million tons of special steel. Is your company or any other steel maker in India, are they trying to produce special steel so that we can be Atmanirbhar on this and we can avoid import of special steel?
Sir, this is a good point, sir. If I talk about my company, we have a huge R&D cell center set up in Vijayanagar, in our Karnataka factory, where basic research on fundamental research is happening along with to make these special steels. The other thing is we are also tied up with many companies in India, educational institutes, some of the very renowned metals and steel research institutes are there. We have also been trying to follow the POSCO model in R&D for making special steels. So there is a government, again, a committee which is looking after this. It was led by Professor Manna of IIT Kanpur, and we are a part of that. We are part of this technical committee which is looking into this. I think Mr. Sushim Banerjee, I don't know if he's there in this meeting. He was also a part of it. He knows quite a lot about it. Yes. JSW is, like many other big companies, is working on this, working on trying to make and develop special steels to reduce imports. We are doing it, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Gupta, Mr. Shubhi Dev, and Mr. Gupta. Thank you very much for such a lively discussion you have participated in, for so much important inputs you have provided to all the participants and to Bengal Chamber of Commerce. I'm indeed grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And we are really indebted to Mr. Sumit Deb and also to Mr. Bishwadeep Gupta for joining with us. And with this, we would conclude this session. And of course, we would like to consider the thought paper and would take your guidance of Mr. Gupta under the leadership of Mr. Som and Mr. Bhattacharya. And with this, we are ending this particular session, and with a short break, we will be coming back at 2:30 p.m. with a very interesting session on coal. That would be Mr. Bhattacharya would be chairing that, and Mr. Anil Kumar Jha will be there, the former chairman MD and Coal India. Mr. Rakesh Kumar, CMD of NLC India, will be there. Mr. Tuhin Mukherjee, Managing Director, SL Mining and Industries Limited, and Sector Head, Mineral Resource Development of Aditya Birla Group, will be there. And of course, Mr. Bina Jal, Director Technical, Coal India, will be joining us at 2:30 p.m. So see you all at 2:30 p.m. Thank you. Thank you all you once again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Som, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.